Wdtfe, as Kyle likes to call it. We're going to do an episode with my uncle-in-law, I guess you can call him, and Kyle's uncle.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
I'm 100% right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well,
Close enough.
Family is
Brian
complicated.
and he was a veteran. And I'm going to let you open it up by telling us what you did in the United States military.
Sure. I started off my experience. When I was going to college, of course, let's start off. I always like things that go bang and boom.
Who doesn't?
Right? I'm a guy.
Yeah.
Right. And I needed some easy classes in college to get A's in to help my grade point average.
Didn't we all, though?
And I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he's like, "Man, you should take ROTC." I'm like, "Really? Yeah, you can take it for like 2 years, 4 semesters of A's." I'm like, "That sounds like a pretty damn good idea." Since after my freshman year, my cumulative GPA was a whopping 1.4. So,
What school were you at?
University of Missouri, Rolla, now known as Missouri Science and Technology, and a EE electrical engineering degree.
That's
that
really
sounds
complicated.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, the funny thing is not to get too rabbit holey, but I was really into computers. Mm-hmm. And I already knew how to program in a number of programming languages, even before college. And I go down there for like a career day or whatever.
Let me stop you there. What made you so interested in the computers themselves?
I have no idea, dude. I was started getting interested in electronics. We used to have these things called magazines.
Right. How old were you? Yeah, magazines. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. Well, it's these things that are printed on paper.
Ooh.
This is complicated.
Like glossy paper.
Very glossy. Well, so there was a magazine called Radio Electronics, and I don't know exactly. I was probably still in grade school. The first trip to Radio Shack.
So you were really into this stuff.
I started. I was into taking stuff apart,
putting it back together. Kind of that
mostly
engineer
taking
mind.
it apart, right?
Yeah.
But I think. You used to be able to go to Radio Shack and buy these cool things. The first project kit was, those light boxes that you hook to your speaker wires, and it does the blinky lights based on the amount of bass, mid-range.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, like the audio tones.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It goes with the music.
Yeah, right. But back in the day, those were analog. They were basically on bandpass filters.
Okay, so I'm confused. You need to explain some of this stuff. Bandpass filters. What the hell is
I
that?
have no idea what that is.
Well, I didn't know what it was until after I went to college.
You got to think about this. These listeners, they're not. I'm just as.
Some of them. Any of the electronic geeks will know what that is.
Oh,
right?
well, I don't know if we
Or
have
radio geeks or comms geeks.
You're not even a geek, man. You're just very intelligent on your craft.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got into that.
Radio Electronics was a magazine, and I think I was in 7th or 8th grade. I don't know, somewhere in there, a little while ago. And they had an article on how to build a little single board microcomputer. It was a 4-bit microcontroller, and it had a little hexadecimal keypad and a little LED readout. And they gave you all the machine language instructions, and they gave you some sample programs.
So you did all this at a young age.
Well, I just read the article and I thought, I want to do that.
I want to do that.
That looks cool.
Yeah, I mean that seems very interesting. So you're in college now. You did all that stuff, and what happened after college?
Well, kind of while I was in college, right? So I got in, did the ROTC stuff, and the first 2 years you're not under contract, and I was digging it. Right? It's basically you're doing infantry tasks, land navigation, basic marksmanship. We got to play with some C4 and some TNT, and got to do some cool rappelling and familiarization fire on Modus and back in the day M60s, which I had to hump at Fort Riley.
Yeah,
which was
that's never fun.
So I really get into it, and I'm good at it. Right. I mean, the phonetic alphabet and learning how to call for fire and all, just those basic infantry tasks. I thought, this shit's cool. Right. and I was good at it, and it came naturally to me. And I thought, I'm going to get under contract. And so once you sign under contract, you get a monthly stipend. Because it's at that point you're in the Army.
So this is all ROTC.
Yeah, this is all ROTC. Yeah, and they had this thing that was called the simultaneous membership program. So you could go join a Guard or Reserve unit, and you get a pay grade of E5, which back in those days was it might pays still shit, but it was a lot of money. I was living off of $6,000 a year, so getting $500 a month from being in the Guard.
So I have a question. Do the ROTC guys get treated any differently than the guys who came in just from basic training?
Yeah, I mean, when we were going through this program, you have no rank. You're like an E0 or E negative something, right? But you get paid, and it's really to kind of orient you around wearing the uniform, right?
Correct.
And I was with a Ribbon Bridge outfit in Rolla, and they used to train down on the Arkansas River at what's that? There's a fort down by Fort Smith, and I'm blanking, Fort Chaffee, and still the World War II barracks. It's a shit place to be in the summer, in the hot. I mean, on the river, it was like 100 degrees. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Maybe it was 95 degrees with 100% humidity.
I was going to say.
It was like, you're just soaked because you're doing this. You're building building bridges, right? And they specialization was ribbon bridges, which are sectional bridges. And the crazy thing is, all the boat operators were all ex-Navy active duty. So they were all crazy dudes. They were people that had been up and down the rivers in Nam.
Yeah.
I mean, these people were not glued together.
Well, half of our audience isn't glued together.
That's true.
I mean, they thought it was cool. We would go out. They said, oh, hey, you're new to the unit, and we'd go out and train on this lake, huge lake south of Rollo. And these were if you can remember what the boats look like in the Vietnam movies, right? They're very high speed boats, but they're not very big.
Yeah, they look like the big, rafts that you float on down the river. And
it's kind of like a really big John boat, except for it's got
it's rubber.
A bunch of engines on it. No, these were metal. These were aluminum.
These were metal?
Yeah, and I don't know how fast they go, but it's fast enough that you're holding on to a 2-inch rope on the bow, on the front of the boat.
Just to keep yourself on the boat.
To hold yourself on the boat. And they thought it was really funny. They'd play chicken, and they'd put the noobs on the front of the boats and just barely miss each other, so you get absolutely soaked.
Oh man!
And
it's like the tidal wave.
And the idea was to see if you could get thrown out of the boat. That's what they were shooting for.
Wow, they wanted you to fly.
How many people got thrown out of boats?
I didn't see. When I went, no way, right? Was I gonna go out of the boat, right? That would have been a no-go.
That means you're off the team.
Yeah, so you suck it up, and it was cold, and you get wet. Being cold and wet didn't really bug me that much, so that was no big deal. But anyway, so spend 2 years in the Guard as an E0, getting paid for it, and
what did you go into the Army as?
I don't know. You're in the Army, but you're not in the Army until you get your commission.
Right.
So functionally, you're a cadet.
Okay, so you went through ROTC,
right,
and then you went through officer training after ROTC.
Well, that's the thing. ROTC is a parallel path for officer training. So you don't go through basic and officer training course. You go through ROTC, and then in between, one of the school years, you go do your basic. It's kind of like a basic course. And I spent 6 or 8 weeks at Fort Riley, and
okay. We were just checking the recording, people. Thank you.
And Fort Riley in the summer was a little on the hot side, a little on the dry side, but in the terrain was crazy because it was super flat until you saw these little wood lines, and those wood lines dropped down about 50 to 75 feet because there was little creeks in them.
Yeah.
It was interesting being out there. I love some of the challenging courses, like they had, kind of like, kind of rangery kind of stuff where you're doing slides for life and you're shimmying out on these ropes about 50 feet, 75 feet over the water and having to tap a sign and drop and, say stupid stuff. And
so tell us about, I'm interested in not after ROTC.
Okay.
So what did you go into in the Army, and what was your job?
So I got branched communications as a 25 Alpha,
And
which
rank,
was
I
a
should
combat communications officer, second lieutenant, and did my officer basic at Fort Gordon, Georgia. And my officer basic taught me a lot about me more than anything. I went in, didn't know I could run, right? I jogged in high school and took jogging classes and ran, but I never did like, it was like an 8-9 minute mile, right? I thought that was running.
Yeah.
And at Gordon, my TAC officer was a West Point grad, and he was an infantry guy, of course, and he was pretty ate up. And
all of us infantry guys are.
Oh yeah, well, right. And he was cool. I liked him, but he didn't take it. There was no grace, right? I mean, everything was like immediate, hammer coming down if you screwed up. So anyway, he had this idea that we should break up into affinity groups, and so at the end of my officer basic course, I was doing like 5.5 minute miles.
Yeah.
In 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
But officer basic, I actually finished second in my class out of I don't know how many people were in the training battalion. It was probably close to 1,000. And I didn't know at that point. I didn't think I was anything. I was no big deal. But then when I finished second in my class, I thought, maybe I can do something.
So you looked down on her. You didn't think you were doing so hot.
Yeah, I didn't think
you are
right.
outperforming
Well, yeah,
everybody.
and then I'm at the end, right? And they're like, call me on stage. I had no freaking idea.
Right. Well, what'd that make you decide to want to do?
Finish my degree.
Finish
Because
your
I had
degree.
30 hours left on my electrical engineering degree. They actually offered me. I could have had my choice of active duty stations right then and there because of how well I did in
how
the
high you
class.
graduated.
Yeah. And man, it was tempting because I was really in love with the Army. I still miss wearing the uniform. And it's been, I haven't worn a uniform since the early 90s.
Well, believe it or not, that's fairly common. Like half the guys that are out still miss the military, the camaraderie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like even though I was so blessed, I never had to see any combat or anything like that, but they're still your brothers, even in training.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And our bad guys were the Russians, right? I was during the Cold War, and we were. Once I got my commission, did my officer basic course, I was attached at the battalion level to a 155 towed artillery unit, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Big guns, getting to hang out with that, getting to learn a little bit about field artillery, all of our comms. And, the other thing, we were a rapid deployment force for Korea, so we were alternate Dvardy, and we had one mission, Silver Bullets, right?
Well, by the way, people, in case you're wondering if the episode sounds a little weird, I'm fired this week.
Yeah.
I forgot the recording equipment, so that's my fault. Kyle will not be fired this episode. Let's give him a round of applause.
Yay. Do you call him producer Kyle?
No, I like.
You should call him producer Kyle.
I'm not the producer.
Yeah.
I just do things.
He's the monkey editor.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just the monkey.
Yeah.
And I'm just a mouth.
You're the mouth.
I'll mouth.
The mouth.
I'll mouth.
But we had wireline comms, of course, FM comms. This was pre-encrypted stuff, so no sync cards yet. It was all just the kind of the standard FM radios, PRC 77s and stuff like that, and vehicle-mounted radios, all analog. We had AM radios, rat rigs, that were used for nuclear release orders, right? So those were encrypted. So, because AM can bounce around the world, so you can receive nuclear release orders no matter where you're on the planet.
I did not know that.
See, I need to introduce him to Wendell Webb,
Yes.
that guy that I was talking about last episode from Boeing and Focus.
Yes.
Technology guy through and through. Like, he invents this stuff.
Yeah, I'm not that imaginative. I am, but I'm not, right?
Well, I can give you
build
the
things.
ideas and you can build it.
Right. I can build things.
If you build it, they will come, Brian.
Yeah, I know.
You were talking about a mission, though. You had one active mission, you said? You said something about silver something.
Oh, silver bullets.
Silver bullet.
Silver bullets.
So military guys know what silver bullets are.
Oh, yeah, you don't want one of those.
Right. So
Okay.
those are nuclear weapons.
Okay.
So the doctrine and I don't know if it's still a doctrine. I have no idea, and I don't think any of this is classified. I think it's all public knowledge. But the doctrine was if the North Koreans ever invaded, and they were always going to invade in the winter, we were going to make the DMZ glow. Right, It's an area denial weapon. Right, not necessarily to like incinerate them, but just to say, sorry, you can't come here. Right, party's closed. And so that was kind of my introduction to crypto and cryptographic comms, and
we used to have crypto rolled every week on the radios,
right,
so that way the enemy couldn't
right
get contact or take over your line of communication.
Yeah, back in the day, I mean, and I don't even know, do they still have like when you were in, did they have like the pads? So whenever we do any comms, right, every day you have everybody has new call signs and new frequencies.
We never changed call signs, or it was more just rolling the crypto, changing the channel that we were on.
Yeah, and we would do that too back when there was no encryption. You'd change channels every day, and and you had some protocols. You had some challenge protocols that you go through to validate or verify that the person on the other end was legit.
Yeah, they had to come down and do crypto for us most of the time because they had radio intel guys come down and change the crypto on every radio down through the route. And it was like, we're doing crypto again? It's like, Jesus.
Well,
but it was necessary.
Secure comms are necessary, right?
Yes.
The bad guys, no matter who your bad guys are, they can be pretty dang witty, right?
Oh, yeah. Like we had a radio in Afghanistan that we had taken off of a body and we used, and the interpreters used to tell us they're about to shoot at you, and I'd be like, shut up, don't do it. Don't tell me I need to react, not act.
So that was fun. I had a boss that was a captain, that was a Signal Corps officer, but everybody else was field artillery, except for, like the docs and lawyers and people like that. And so after about a year, they needed me to be the battery commander for the headquarters battery as a second lieutenant.
That's
an
honor.
Yeah, it was. It was a great honor. And they put cannons. They took my Signal Corps flags, because in the Guard, it's really crazy, and they can't even do this in the Reserve. If they want you to do something, they just rip off your insignia and give you a new insignia and say, okay, you're field artillery now. That doesn't happen in active duty.
That's like knowledge. MOS change incident.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a little crazy. And they said, congratulations, you're the new battery commander. And I thought it was pretty cool. And I did an okay job. As the battery commander, the main job is to, do route planning, reconnaissance, train on immediate actions, have rally point, you kind of the standard tactical movement stuff, as well as, make sure that motor pool guys are doing their thing, cooks are doing their things.
So
and
you
I
basically have a whole battalion under you.
Well, no, it's just a company, it's a company grade element, but we provided, company services and then services the battalion as well. So, and I stupidly thought I was something special because of that. Until I screwed up on a movement. We had an external training exercise where we were being evaluated with, I don't know if they still call them RTEPs or, but. And we did a run to cantonment for something, and my NCOs thought it would be funny if they let me get lost.
Oh man.
Yeah, getting lost is a whole new story.
Yeah, and so, and they knew where they had been to I don't remember where we were. I don't
Do you
know
feel
if we
like
were
it was like they
Fort
did
McCoy, or I don't remember what installation we were on, but they all knew the roads, and they just let me get lost.
Well, do you feel like they did it because maybe you started to think you were something special, or did they do it just to be funny?
No, they thought it was funny.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I had a good, so when I did my officer basic course, I had enough work with NCOs that I knew my job. Retarded. No, not when it comes to being a second lieutenant, right?
No,
you guys are pretty incredible.
I will give you that. Butter bars is what we call them.
Right, yeah.
And you never listened to a butter bar.
Right, yeah. I mean, I said, I'm here to learn from you, right? And of course, you don't do that out in public. You kind of do that in private and say, help me, right? I need to learn. I need you to teach me. And I had fantastic NCOs, right?
NCOs are the backbone of the military.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. I mean, and since I was at battalion level, and then later I was at brigade level, but at battalion level, I think my ranking NCO was an E7.
Oh, wow.
That's a high ranking.
He'd been in there for
Yeah. He knew his
I mean,
shit.
I was just an E4, but I thought I ran shit.
And so in a bunch of E6s and E5s, and I mean, I had fantastic cadre, and they kept me out of trouble, but they just were screwing around, and they thought it would be funny if they let me get lost, and so I got legitimately lost, and they did not help me at all until I got myself unlost. So we get to the destination. So I missed the tactical movement and all that crap. And when we pull up, this was back when we were still running the old Jeeps, the old Willys Jeeps, right? Mm-hmm. And pull in, and man, the first shirt's just chewing my ass in front of God and everybody. First sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And
well, at that point, I would have been like, salute me. How about that?
I was like, at first, I got angry that he was talking to me like that. It's just a guy thing, right?
Yeah.
What I didn't do anything on purpose. What are you, chewing my ass in front of God and everybody? And that kind of was a career-limiting move. I actually, shortly thereafter, I got bounced up to brigade.
Oh, man. So,
and put flags back on.
So you're into all this intelligence stuff, and you're really good with computers. What do you think about what's going on with all these drones and everything right now?
I find it very interesting. I mean, obviously, drones aren't new. We've been using them for a long time.
Oh, yeah. We used them in the military when I was in. So.
Yeah. So, but everything was, back in the day, everything was fixed wing, right? But now with the level of automation, with the flight controllers that you can have VR type environments, like you can actually be in the cockpit virtually,
right,
and fly around and drop ordnance.
Ukraine, they're going back to World War I in the trenches.
Right, it's trench warfare, right.
Because of the drones. They're dropping hand grenades and...
Yep.
Dropping mortar rounds.
Right, mortars on top of people.
Right, and I'm like, wait a minute, I thought, I don't know, when I fired mortars, I was told that they had to spin so many times before that head was armed.
Just has to hit something
and I'm like, no, these are point detonating things. I think they're armed when they load them on the drone. I'm like,
Yeah, all that point has to do is touch something hard enough to where it's going to explode.
Yeah, but I got to do cool stuff when we got to brigade level. That was really fascinating because it's just more people, and got to. If you ever get the chance to not go to Dugway Proving Grounds in the Great Salt Lake Desert, don't if you can avoid it.
Salt Lake Desert just doesn't sound like a place I want to go.
It's a high desert. And they close the base or the installation in the wintertime. And Dugway Proving Grounds is where they used to test nuclear and chemical agents. So the first time I knew we weren't in Kansas anymore is when they issue us all live chemical and NBC gear.
NBC gear, right? Yeah, you don't want to be in that stuff.
But it was in the wintertime. So it's like when the sun was out and the wind wasn't blowing, it was a balmy 2 degrees.
Oof. You've done some interesting stuff. You might not have gone to war, but I've never had to wear an NBC suit somewhere that I was stationed. So
for real.
Well, we used to have to train in that crap because remember the doctrine. We just knew that because keep in mind it wasn't that long ago when we were developing all kinds of chemical weapons. Have you ever been to? Have you ever heard of Tuele?
Pick that up. I'm sorry. I hope the phone picked that up. Oh, I thought it was Diane burping.
No, that was Harley. So. Anyway, Dugway, next to Dugway, one mountain range over was Tuele, and I'm probably saying it wrong, but that's how I was told to say it. There was a chemical munitions depot. That's where we used to store all of our chemical weapons.
Right.
And now, I don't know what they do out there. I don't know if it's still an active installation, but the town's kind of integrated into it and stuff, so it's not, I don't think it's the same type of facility anymore. It's kind of like if you go up to Bush Wildlife Area, right? You can drive around and see the bunkers where they used to store store fun toys.
Ammo mounds?
There was more stuff in those than just ammo.
Well, yeah.
Remember they had nuclear weapons development program out there.
Well, like I was telling you, when I worked out in Torona, California, you would drive by. They had an active Air Force base there, and you could see where the camps used to be but no longer existed. Like this town was run down. There was nothing left of it. But you could see lights in the hill in the morning on the way into work, and they would turn off right as the sun would come up, and they looked like a big steel garage in the middle of the mountain. And you'd see these headlights coming down and go into it, and it was like, what do they think they're getting away with over here?
Yeah. Well, they're underground not to hide. They're underground to protect from nuclear weapons.
Right.
Right. That's it. That's the short story. But that was the first time I'd never seen big sky country like that, and that was amazing. Like driving in a Jeep. Actually, we just got Humvees, but I think I was still in a Jeep. But you can see where you're going. It takes you hours to get there. It's weird, but
it's kind of like driving through Kansas when you see the mountains.
Yeah, except for Kansas,
Colorado.
You gotta get.
We're almost there, and it's like
12 hours away.
We're still 12 hours away from that mountain.
Yeah, same thing. And I got voluntold to escort a general around, so I had to like jump in a Huey, fly over, pick up, and then get in a car and drive and pick up a general and all the blah blah blah. Fly over the mountain range. He had goats in a UH-1. We're flying at an altitude where there were goats on the mountains higher than us. So and the bird was struggling, but I got to go to the impact area, and they had these huge salt or like sand deserts out there,
right? Mm-hmm.
Like stuff you see in the movies in Saudi Arabia and crap like that. And that's when I understood, like right then and there, that field artillery was nothing to screw with, because they're doing time on targets, time on TOT, time on target missions.
What's the danger radius close for artillery?
Well, it depends on the munitions, but the thing that scared me is like they have like an entire, I don't know how big, maybe like a battalion-sized convoy for targets.
I think it's like 200 meters danger close for artillery.
Yeah, that probably sounds reasonable, but
I only know this because I had it dropped on me one time.
Was it an airburst?
No, it was an actual artillery shell.
Yeah, but so depending on what kind of fuse you put on it, right? So you have
this is where
impact fuses, right, which are supposed to hit when they hit the ground. You have some fuses that will delay detonate, so they hit something and then they wait so it can go in further before it detonates.
The one that almost landed on me had a smoke tail behind it. It was spinning. You could see it. It was like, oh no, get back in the trench.
Yeah, run and hide. But they we had 2 brigades, firing brigades out there, and both brigades did a fire for effect on this target, time on target, and it was all airbursts. And so I don't know how many guns fired, but you see this huge ass convoy out there, and all at the same time, all of these airbursts over the entire convoy. Now, this was in 1987, and I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Don't want to be on the receiving end of that, right?
Even computers in 1987.
We had computers.
They had green screens and floppy disks, man.
Yeah. Hey, the Air Force only just got rid of their floppy disks. They had 8-inch floppy disks on the nuclear missiles, on all the nuclear silos.
Does that not scare you a little bit, how far we've come in technology?
Dude, those 8-inch floppies were secure. Nobody made them except for one company, and nobody could read them, and then they replaced them with USB drives. So
yeah.
How secure? Oh, let me see. Oh, here's all the goodies on a USB drive, and how easy would that be to clone and
do something
with, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, they're going back to World War I trench fare. We might end up going backwards in technology.
We might need
just
some
to keep
floppies.
stuff secure.
Yes. That almost sounds like what was kind of like the Matrix, right? They're using old technology or some of these sci-fi movies where they go analog because the digital bad guys can't see them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Who knows, man?
So
this could be some kind of crazy thing going on here. I think that we're getting into.
Yeah.
You know?
You never know.
The conspiracy theories. We did an episode on conspiracy theories.
That was going to be one of my questions for him.
There's no such thing as conspiracy theories.
No, it's just a theory.
Right. It's just a hypothesis.
A hypothesis. Yeah. But it's on the internet for eternity.
For eternity.
Yeah. Mainly because it's probably true.
No, once it hits the internet, it's there forever. Yeah. Eternity.
Yeah. Kind of like,
I don't think it picked you up on your eternity. I
thought he was just heavy breathing.
We did this last episode, where I said the internet is, my new slogan for the internet is, everything's there for eternity.
Eternity.
You should be on radio, dude.
Thanks.
Yeah. Kyle hasn't said much this episode.
That's because he's very interesting. This is all new information to me. I have not heard a single thing of this.
Well, nobody talks about their service. Right?
I know, but I love to hear about your people's service. I think it's really interesting, like what they did.
And for me, and I didn't see gobs of great places. I did get to go train with 101st down at Fort Campbell. So that was amazing.
Yeah.
Except for their armor made a mess of my wire line comms, but other than that, it was still all good. I love how strapped those guys were. I mean, they were so
rat nest.
Oh yeah, it just disappears, right? You get a freaking company of any tracked vehicle rolling through your wire, and your wire's gone.
See, that's when so you used to lay wire for the old radios.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you had. Remember MASH and the plug switchboard, right?
Yeah.
SB22, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it was, right? Tip and ring, switchboard. The companies would call, the battalion, and the battalion would patch them through to brigade or patch them through to another company or whatever.
That's a whole different style of radio.
Yes, it is.
Well, it's telephones. It's not real. It's
Well,
not radio,
I mean,
that's right.
But still, you had to run that wire as far as you were moving.
All the way up to the front of the line.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. And they did that even back in World War One.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, wireline comms were, the lifeline because with secure, if you didn't have secure comms on FM or AM, and so you were always subject to intercept and jamming. So wire was considered to be,
The superior alternative.
So,
more secure.
could you imagine being one of the guys in World War One having to run a telegram all the way through the trenches?
Any war, I could not imagine being that guy. Yeah, that guy doing that.
Yeah, you got a spool of wire.
Yeah, and that's what they did. They would just
and
run.
you're running.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've done that multiple times.
Have you?
Yes.
And the little TA312s, the crank telephones.
I did it to draw fire. I was like, all right, guys, I'm getting out of this trench. And when I do, you better find out where they're shooting from because I'm not doing this again. So I took off running across the field and bullets by my feet. I was like, oh, God, I hope I don't get hit.
By your feet?
By my feet.
Yes, he used to have those.
So they were
I
leading
used
you.
to have those at one time.
They were leading you appropriately. They just didn't.
The
They weren't
distance was
elevating
not-
correctly.
Not at all.
So they didn't have a good reticle on their scope. Either. They didn't have any
they were
rangefinders. They were Kentucky
were-
windage.
Surprisingly, they actually shot and moved and communicated. And it was complete opposite of Afghanistan or Iraq, where they just came out and started shooting.
Yeah, they just come out and try to hit you with
shot
RPGs.
a couple sprays and run.
Right,
In
yeah.
Afghanistan, they were actually shooting and moving and communicating. They were coherent.
They were learning.
Yeah, they were adapting and using tactics that they've never used before.
Yeah, but it also wasn't their first rodeo. I mean, look how long
the
Russians were in there, and we were training them and giving them weapons, right?
Well,
so
that's
it's
where
not
I
like
was
they
at.
didn't know. Who do you think trained them? RSF guys, right?
That's where I was at, was down in Charlie Wilson's trenches that he built all them canals for growing agriculture down in Afghanistan, in the desert.
Agriculture?
Not agriculture.
I thought that was for flower fields.
Poppy seeds.
Poppy seeds, yeah.
Yep.
No, it's just flowers. There's
Flowers.
nothing, there's no evil intent.
Was I wrong with agriculture?
No, that was correct.
It's a type
Okay,
of agriculture.
he kind of threw me off. I was like, did I say that wrong?
Oh, man. But what were we talking about?
Airburst.
Oh, airburst. Yeah, that was
Tangent.
crazy. Yeah. The other thing,
I love our tangents.
yeah, but I don't know, the helicopter rides, helicopters down at Fort Campbell, those guys were insane. I had never done Nap of the Earth in a well, this was when Blackhawks were first coming online, and we didn't get to go on any Blackhawks. We were told, you can go on the old ones, we go on the Hueys. But even Nap of the Earth in a helicopter, you're flying, like some level, they say 50 feet above the trees. I think the pilots lie. And then they do the whole banking thing, so they think it's really cool, right? And they're doing this bank, and you're just looking. You're wearing your 5-point safety harness, but you're looking straight ahead, but you're looking at the ground.
It's almost like the Ospreys. Those things were terrible when they first came out.
They're still terrible.
Yeah, like
Well, they pretty much work. They don't fall out of the sky like they used
flying
to.
out of them like there's no tomorrow because you're actually vertical and it's like you better be wearing your seatbelt in that thing.
Yeah, it was fun times doing that. Yeah, and I got to see some interesting places. Like I said, Fort Gordon was a beautiful place. I didn't even know what the Masters was until I went to, Fort Gordon. I didn't golf. I don't know. I didn't know.
Oh, the Masters
tournament.
Yeah,
the Masters tournament.
You got a Masters
See, if you
degree?
just say Masters, right?
Well, I'm assuming degree because you're talking about electrical engineering.
I was thinking something in the military. I was like, I've never heard of that.
I've never heard
There's a Master Sergeant.
Yes, I know there's a Master Sergeant, but we don't call them Masters,
Well, yeah. Not to their faces, anyway.
Oh, man.
But,
So gone.
Fort McCoy was probably the coolest place that I got to go. Because in the summer, beautiful place to go if you're going to live in the woods in the summer someplace, because it's not really hot in the daytime and it gets cold at night, so it's good sleeping weather.
So where is it specifically for our viewers that don't know?
Oh, it's up in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Yeah. Let me see. Fort Riley. What? There was someplace, Atterbury, Camp Atterbury. I think that was in Indiana. A lot of these things. So McCoy used to be a camp, and now it's a fort because they moved some sort of training.
Well, camps are usually Marines.
Well, these were all World War II installations.
Oh, okay.
So they used to do, during World War II, Camp Atterbury and Camp McCoy were training installations.
Okay.
I guess they did, I hadn't looked, I think they did basic training up there, because you had a lot more. It's not like now everybody in the Army goes through basic at Fort Wood, right? Or whatever they call it now. It's probably like Joint Base, something, something, something. It's like, I missed,
they
when
got
it was
rid
a
of all
fort,
the Civil War
and it was
commanders.
Yeah, well,
names
don't
from
get me
the
started
forts.
on that. Yeah.
No, let's get started on that.
No, this is just some stupid shit. When I went, one of the amazing things that I did when I went through the ROTC program is I had one required history course, the American military experience or something like that, and it was like a 1,500-page textbook, boring as hell, but all it was facts. It was basically all of our military engagement since foundation, or even pre-foundation of the country.
Right.
And oh man, wow, that was some cool shit.
Well, what about the fact that they're knocking down these statues of Civil War generals and stuff like that?
Well, they're doing it for founding fathers, for God's sakes.
Listen,
right?
Oh, we forget
George
history.
Washington is a bad guy. Why? Because he has wooden teeth like the fat lady? Give me a break.
Well, we're just knocking out history, and if you don't remember history, it's always going to repeat itself.
Yep.
But see, that's the Mao strategy, right? That's why they did the Cultural Revolution, is to take the history of the Chinese people away from them. Because if you have no history, you have no foundation, you can be led anywhere. Mm-hmm. And they want to do the same damn thing here.
Yeah, well, that's going to stop.
It's going to stop one way or the other.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah.
Something's going to come to a head.
Yeah, because and here's the thing. You look at all the crazy people that are doing evil things against civilians or targets that we like, right? They have no comprehension. If they push hard enough, what's coming their way?
Well, there's more.
No, I agree.
The storm that they will bring on themselves will erase them from history.
I say that you don't train over however million people were in the military in the last 22 years and then try to push back on them.
Right.
Because we're all experienced. We still have guys that were predated after Vietnam that were in that still believe in everything that the military stands for. We have people that are still in Vietnam that could probably go out and shoot a gun that were...
Oh, my dad?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't think that you're going to come into this country and then all of a sudden just take us over. There's no way.
And not only that, these crazy ass Marxists, they're such a minority, let's face it, they're a vocal less than 1%, and everybody thinks, oh, they know everything, because our education system was compromised. Here's the one. All right, I'm going to back up a little bit. So when I was going through ROTC,
here we go.
When I was going through ROTC, one of the most ground-shattering facts was the revelation of how deeply the KGB had infiltrated our institutions.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Schools, churches, local government, state government, and federal government. And this is the foundations of what we're seeing now with the flower of Marxism and socialism and communism here is based on those seeds that were planted a hell of a long time ago. And people think some of this shit just started, and they go, here, I'll give you one. You guys know who Teddy Roosevelt is, right?
Oh, yeah.
he's a good guy, right?
Right.
He's a fucking Marxist.
He
was a fucking communist.
Really?
Well, he did 3 terms.
No, you're thinking FDR. He was a communist too. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So Teddy Roosevelt was the guy that was supposed to be in the Spanish-American War, Rough Rider, right? Blah blah blah, fighting in Cuba and all this shit, which was all made up. But all that aside,
how does
he look at the end of the 1800s, right? At the end of the 19th century, the new way science, right, was all about what we look at now as Marxism and communism, right? Because it was all based on science.
Well, yeah, science is supposed to be the leading.
Right.
I'm doing air quotes again.
Yeah, it's the religion.
Stop looking at my hands,
right? It's
Kyle.
the religion of science, right? Which it wasn't science. You look at eugenics, right? That was based on science, right? We don't want these lowlifes making babies, right? We don't want mental retards making babies.
Whoa! Don't know if we can say that, but let's go for it. I'm doing it.
We're not on the radio. We're fine.
Well, but hang on. Calling, mental retardation is an actual thing. Right?
It is.
It's measurable.
Kyle's there.
Totally.
You sure his IQ is that high?
Yeah.
What's
a little
IQ?
bit. What's it? What is
ice cream? I love
it's ice cream.
I love ice cream.
Yeah, it's where you. It's
definitely ice cream.
Definitely
Great flavor.
Great flavored.
But all right, back up a little bit more. In the middle of the 1800s, all right, there was a socialist uprising in Europe, and the kings over there were like, "Fuck you, you're not happening." So those that didn't get caught, captured, and killed fled to the United States, and they brought their little fun toy ideas that it's all about the group and it's not about the individual, and the state needs to enforce that. And so there has been a very long march to get to where we are now. This shit started in the 1850s. They actually, and those people loved Abraham Lincoln. I know I'll probably get some shit for this, but Abraham Lincoln was the first president that suspended our Constitution.
Yes.
Right. He was the first president to violate his oath of office, and there was no ramification. Yeah, I mean, he took a bullet to the brain. Sucks to be him, but there. If you go back, we've erased the real history and replaced it with myth.
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's everything.
During the Civil War, you know what the senior army officers, the generals and the colonels would call Abraham Lincoln?
What?
Caesar. They despised him. He was in their affairs, telling them how to do their job, guiding the efforts, and then we created this whole mythos, right? About and this is nothing about race. This is just history. So if you're listening to this and it pisses you off, but it makes you
don't
think,
worry, we're not worried if it pisses anybody
But see, here's the thing. We're told now, right? What was the Civil War about, Kyle?
Was it states' rights?
Oh, you're not going to say it was about freeing the black man?
It was. I mean, I know better
Slavery.
than that. It was that came later, but it was about states' rights.
Yeah. Well, it started off because the federal government was dictating to the states what they could do inside of their border, and their states are like, "Hey, there's this thing. What about the 9th and 10th Amendments, right?" And the Fed go, "Screw you. We don't care." And so they're like, "All right, we're out. Yep. You violated the contract that we signed, and so we're tapping out."
I think Texas is the only state that can legally secede without any penalty.
That's nonsense. Any state that enters in,
it's supposed to be
right.
Able to.
It's a contract, right? It's like getting married, right? If two
don't
people
do it.
decide they don't like each other anymore, guess what? They get a divorce, right? In contract law, if one side violates the contract, the other side is under no obligation to uphold the contract.
Don't tread on me. You cut the head off the snake right up there where everybody knows where I'm talking about. I'm just not going to say it on the phone because I don't want to get house bug.
It's already too late, man. We talk about stuff. They've already been listening.
they're already in this.
We're recording. We've been recording what we've been saying, and they've already been listening before we even.
Oh man, they knew what was coming.
Okay, so
they didn't long story short, right? We've had a lot of efforts to take us down this path, and the only reason I have any idea any of this going on was because of what I was taught, in the Army. Like what they used to teach, right, was, honor, duty, country. I doubt they teach that shit anymore because that's not DEI. But so, I was in when we were trying to rebuild the forces and the morale of the forces after Vietnam. even though my commission was in '85. All of my guys were almost all Vietnam vets, and they all had crazy stories about their experiences, because you put 500,000 people over in the woods in a shooting war, and we lose 60,000 guys. There's a lot of stories over there.
Yes.
And it amazes me even now. People have no appreciation that we lost that many people in Vietnam, or that there were that many deployed.
We've lost almost that many in the Iraq and Afghanistan war. It's just suicide.
Yeah, I know. That's another thing, right? And I mean, that's a tough nut to crack, right? Because suicide rate in law enforcement is really high. Anybody that is constantly exposed to the dirt, the worst things that life has to offer.
I heard the number one job that was most rated high for suicides was dentist or chiropractor.
Well, I heard it was dentist. Yeah,
dentist.
And I'm
like, really?
I'm like,
what are you doing?
It's like, I was like, really?
Are you really? It's like going back to the Christmas story where the elf just wanted to be a dentist. Where's he at now?
He shot himself.
Veterans Hotline?
Yes. Nope.
Yes, call 811.
Is that what it is?
Yes,
Good.
they've now made it 811.
Oh, wow.
To where you don't
working?
have to go and call the VA and get on the hotline, because I bitched about that after I got shot myself, and they finally came up with a solution to dial 811 if you're in a crisis, because it's faster than going through the VA and then having to dial a 1-800 number and do all that bullshit. They don't redirect you. 811 goes straight to an operator.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Now you know.
No.
Now you know.
Now you know.
The more you know. Little rainbow just came by.
Yes.
Is that a unicorn?
They're unicorns.
All right, so I don't know.
I like all the rabbit trails we go down.
We
Yeah,
do.
dude,
like,
that's
boom, boom, boom,
the whole
boom.
part is the tangent of what the conversations, where's it going to go next? And I think that's what keeps me hooked into these
I know.
conversations.
Yeah, it's like, and then the other thing, you look at all the excuses that our government used to get into war.
Yeah. All the time.
They finally, I mean, even though anybody that had studied history, you're like, yeah, World War I, false flag. World War II, false flag. Korea.
Still back-to-back champions.
Yeah, well.
Then we lost.
Well, Korea, we said, we let them off, and we said, we can press pause.
That wasn't World War, though. That was Korea.
But they were still in a state of war with North Korea.
No.
Right? It was only
The Korean War was...
Korean War is still jacked up.
It's the forgotten war.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah, well, that's true, too. And Vietnam's only considered a conflict.
I know.
According to Congress. It just wasn't technically a war, which is bullshit.
Even though we had like almost 500,000 people over there.
Yeah. It's just a conflict.
Yeah, just conflict. But I don't know. You look at even when, I don't know, you guys see the news.
I don't watch.
I don't watch.
Well, when I say news,
I
mean
like to keep my own
hearing
opinion
the
on things.
So, did you hear about the sailor that did the interview? I don't remember what the boat was, but there was a boat over when the 7-day war broke out in the Med, and
No, you're good.
and they
No.
the Israelis blew it up, right? And it was like a false flag operation. They were trying to get us into that war, that conflict, and we were like, no, sorry, we're too busy over in Vietnam, because this was in '67.
No. Yeah.
Really?
We've
You're
been
gonna have to
going
make
for
this a two-parter, man.
the
We haven't even
two-parter.
started.
I mean, we can get into a
Yeah.
two-parter. We could try again tomorrow morning.
Oh man, yeah, we could. We still got plenty of time.
Well, that means I got to drink in the morning.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
Morning drinking. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually quitting at the beginning of the year, which is probably going to be the best.
So, do you
thing.
still morning drink tomorrow then?
Yeah. 100%.
What's your favorite story of when you're in? Like, what's your fondest memory?
My
While you're in?
fondest memory?
Or funniest memory? A significant moment in your memory that you've not talked about.
Where were we? I think we were at McCoy, and I was again found myself being a battery commander, except for this time for a headquarters battery at brigade level, and that I didn't suck at. I was much more prepared for that.
No one
again,
said you sucked at anything.
well, and I was wearing cross cannons again, and it's just normal training scenario. Although we were being it was external evaluation, and so we saw the red team coming. They weren't very smart in their approach. They weren't very tactical. And so we went out. Did you ever get to play with some of the fun pyrotechnics in training? Like
I didn't.
They became flashbangs, but they were like fused hand grenades. We hand grenade simulators, and they were just big firecrackers.
Well, we played with simulating rounds as well. Like you'd get shot with a 9mm paintball.
Oh yeah, no. So they had like field artillery simulators were like whistling munitions. So you had a string, you pull it, you drop it, and it goes. Right, it's supposed to sound like an incoming mortar or something. But they also had grenade simulators.
Yeah, they had
big
that
flashbang. They were like flashbangs, basically.
Like they would fuck you up inside boot camp. Like
inside of a building with one of those.
They start throwing bombs in there and just blowing everything.
So anyway, we had a whole bunch of those, and so we weren't holding back. So like we surrounded these guys, and we basically quit because we were throwing flashbangs at them. And so we rounded them up. We herded them. They were our PWs, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this major shows up, and he's all up in my grill, and he's all pissed off. I put these people at risk and all this shit, and
that's what training is.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. You know how many people die in training every year? It's like everything we do, everything you do in the military is dangerous, right? You put on the uniform, it's risky.
You basically sign your life on a dotted line that says, "I will give you up to my life."
Yeah, but not beyond.
I don't think I don't know.
Maybe I don't know.
We don't know.
And he got so mad he CS'd us. He used tear gas on us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that we would then have to go drop into an NBC. We'd have to put on our mop gear and blah blah blah, and that was
tear gas. That's like mustard gas from World War I.
Well, no, CS. If you ever played with CS,
CS is not fun.
CS is not fun. It's kind of persistent.
You gotta breathe it in, and
yes, you do.
Then you go into a bucket that everybody else is snots in just to get water on your face.
I faked that.
When
I went through the gas chamber.
Did you just hold your breath?
No, I went right, and they threw me out.
See,
and I never breathed in.
When I did it, some people
I held my breath.
I'll say,
it still burned my eyes.
Well, yeah,
I held my breath.
But I didn't breathe that shit in. I knew better.
See, when we were doing it, people like you, they would just make weight there, and people like you, they would still make weight there. They would make you, even after you started coughing, say your social security number, your rank, and your MOS.
But see, I was good at doing that. I could hold my breath and then say it and still hold my breath without ever inhaling it.
But with people like you, they would wait for you to start coughing to fit. But people that automatically stop, they didn't care either. They stopped them, and they would do everybody else first.
I tell you, one of the things that was my most disappointing thing was the way the civilians treated uniformed forces when I got my commission. Mm-hmm. We were literally told, this was in the mid-'80s, right? Because I got my commission in 85. We were told, never wear your uniform when you're going around in town. And I did one time because, I was going to school in Rolla, and I was, on campus, and I was going to something. I had to be in uniform. And it's Rolla's compact, so the downtown stretch is right there. And people would literally go to the other side of the street. You were so repulsive that they would cross the street to not walk by you. And
I think that's what 9/11 really did for the military, was make it more acceptable. The way we were treated when we came home is way different than the way anyone was treated after Vietnam.
Well, even the Korean vets, they didn't get any parades or anything.
Nothing
you losers, you didn't win. Right? And Vietnam was a clusterfuck anyway. That was one of the areas that I really studied a lot. I wrote a number of papers when I was in ROTC on Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh actually wrote his first constitution styled after the U.S. Constitution, and he begged the United States recognition.
Really?
Yeah. The whole damn thing could have been avoided, but all this shit started in World War II. So the French, we saved the French. French owed us a shit ton of money.
That's why we have French fries.
And mayonnaise. But so we were actually dropping supplies to French service.
The French are horrible
in Vietnam, even in the late 40s and in the 50s, and then after Dien Bien Phu. when they got their asses kicked, that was become somehow a trigger to have greater United States involvement because the French are like,
I think like we felt like we owed the French because they helped us get our own independence, but like the French have done nothing.
But how many times you got to help them, right? We saved them in World War I, we saved them in World War II, right? How many times? And
then they got bombed in Paris and was like, where's the United States at? Well, where have you been the last 30, 20 years while we've been fighting this war?
Right.
I said 30, but I meant 20.
Yeah. I thought they had some units. Not many.
Not many.
Yeah. I thought they had some, like, that through the UN.
I was with the British guys, and they made me laugh so hard.
The Brits were cool.
I never laughed.
Did you ever work
so
with any
hard.
Aussies?
I've heard Aussies.
No, I've never worked with any Aussies.
Oh, man, I had this freaking...
I never worked with any British guys either. We were just at their camp to check out their shop while we were at Leatherneck, because we were like, let's go to a different PX. But, yeah, they were funny as shit.
Yeah, the Brits were always cool. The Aussies, not so. This one, I don't know. Maybe it's just a bad taste from one guy. I think he was a major. He was just a dick. Yeah.
Well, we had some kid walking up. He was a personnel other than Grunt, a Pogue, and he came walking up and he looked at one of the British guys and goes, "You know where the Wi-Fi is at, mate?" And he goes, "Mate, Wi-Fi? I'm more worried about my legs being blown off." And I was like, "Yes."
Do you know their tanks come with a kettle?
Come with a kettle for tea?
Yeah, for tea.
Are you serious?
You're so full of shit.
No,
I know. I feel like that's a bullshit story.
You talking about the British tanks?
Yes. Not the Aussie tanks. I mean...
Yeah, theirs would come with a beer cooler.
See, the Aussies should be badass fighters. They're all born from criminals.
Yeah, right.
That's where the British sent all their criminals, was down to Australia.
Right. Like, the other nations' insignia don't look anything like ours, a lot of them, right? And so, like, I don't know what... This guy's a major. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. He was all getting in my face because I didn't salute him. And I'm like...
Oh, other militaries? I didn't care. I'd let him yell at me. I'd just be like, okay.
Sure.
You got it, bud.
I'm sitting there thinking in the back of my head, I'm sitting there thinking, what's he going to do? He ain't even from here.
Yeah. That's what made it hard.
He tried to be respectful, right?
What made it hard in the military, though, is that when you're wearing green camis and you have this big insignia with rockers and stripes, and you're like trying to figure it out as you're walking up, and you can't get it done fast enough because there's an insignia in the middle. Like if it's a first sergeant or a master sergeant, it's a difference, a diamond or a blasting bomb. So it's like, shit, I gotta figure this out real fast. Nope, going right. I'm avoiding him.
Yeah. And with European officer rank, which Aussies use the same thing, it was just very different. Like you have some sort of like pips. Like one pip would be a butter bar, 2 pips would be first lieutenant, 3 pips would be a captain, and then they'd change to some other kind of pip. And like, 1 pip would be, like a major, 2 pips would be a lieutenant colonel, and 3 pips would be a colonel. But it's like too complicated.
Yeah, I don't know. So what do you do with this knowledge that you've gained through the military and all that today?
I was fascinated by small unit leadership techniques. I actually bring that to my job, right? I'm a chief information security officer and also a chief compliance officer in my current role, but I've been involved in security and technology for all of my civilian life. And the coolest lesson that I took away was that my NCOs taught me that if I take care of my people, they will help me take care of the mission.
100%.
And I have a little bit of a problem because I get really heavily invested in my people. I mean, it might sound corny, but I love my people, right? If they're on my team, they're my people. I love them by default, right? And I am going to do everything that I can do to equip and empower them to accomplish the mission.
Well, that's leadership.
Yeah,
that's at its finest.
Yeah, I'd say that's good leadership right there.
Yeah, and so that was the biggest lesson that I took out of the military. Other than that, I'm a decent marksman. And
yeah, I'd say so. I mean, you have a pistol range out in your backyard.
Pistols are hard.
They are.
Right?
They've got a recoil like you wouldn't believe, and if you don't have I call it a limp wrist.
Yeah,
that's why I used to tell women.
That's what it is in training. That's what they call it, right?
Well, when I sold guns at Pistols Plus, I used to tell people, women would come in, they'd be like, "What kind of gun should I get?" And I go, "Well,
22?
is it for home or for pleasure?" And they'd be like, "Home." I'd say a revolver because you're guaranteed 8 shots.
Yeah, right. Well,
you're guaranteed.
or 5 or 6, depends on the caliber.
Yeah, it depends on the caliber, but you're guaranteed those shots. If you get a limp wrist and get a stovetop, you got to learn how to clear that weapon ASAP, or you're not getting another round off. So.
Right. Yeah, and because you don't have to think under stress. But then the double action trigger pull, unless you're really close. You know. But that's kind of like, I guess that maybe that's what the Secret Service guy was using that shot at the second sniper. Apparently, like emptied his weapon at the and fired and never hit him.
Into that
never hit him.
Sniper.
I'm like,
story.
wait a minute.
That was the whole
I thought Secret Service guys were supposed to be
were they all
trained.
in the fucking bottom floor of the goddamn building?
Oh, yeah, the first one? Yeah, that's because it was hot outside, dude. Those weren't, but most of those weren't Secret Service. They were just like DHS cops.
Oh, we could do this all day long.
Actually, I saw a video the other day. I don't know if it was during one of the assassinations, but they were putting the president in, and there was a female Secret Service agent.
Oh, the fat one?
I don't know.
Couldn't holster her weapon? She's like,
no.
I'm like waiting for her to have a negligent discharge into her hip.
No, this woman hid behind somebody after a gunshot.
Oh, I saw that one too.
Yeah,
and I was
hilarious. Like, whoa, hey,
I'm like,
that's
dude,
literally your job. Like, you're supposed to be there to take the bullet.
I know.
I don't want to hear stories like this.
Dude. Yeah.
Because it's like, it's almost like people nowadays, they take jobs that they
not supposed to have.
Not supposed to have
Yes.
at all.
Well, and let's face it, right? As soon as, if I have nothing against women being in law enforcement or in the military,
no.
but what bothers me
Is the
is
cowardness.
why do we lower the standards?
Yes.
That and the cowardness.
It's like, wait a minute. If I gotta hump a 100-pound ruck on a forced march,
why don't you?
Why exactly?
can't you? Because if you're my
you can't
battle
pass
buddy,
the standards-
whole idea was be able to carry a man on your
If
shoulders.
you can't
That's why we
pass
did
the
it.
standards, you should not be allowed to be certain jobs. Firemen, you have to pass a standard.
Right.
Police officers, you have to pass a standard.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, man.
Well, yeah, that's a different story. But firemen, definitely, you have to pass a standard.
You have to be able to carry
You
somebody.
have to be able to carry a hose up a flight of steps in a certain amount of time.
Well, you got to also be able to carry a man,
Right.
right? And the Marines still do that. The Marines still do.
Oh,
man
the
carries,
Marines.
right?
I believe that I would not be the person I am without the Marine Corps today.
Well, I definitely, without my military involvement in the Army, I mean, the Army helped me understand me, right? And helped me understand that the only limits that I have are those I place upon myself.
Well, that's when we also become the most disappointed in ourselves, is when we put such high expectations.
Well, yeah, but that,
So,
if you don't,
it could be- you gotta be careful with
If you
that.
don't set high expectations, you're not going to achieve anything, right? If you set low expectations, you don't have to try to achieve that, right? You can always aim high, and if you miss, but you got higher than you would have.
That's an interesting aspect on it. I always thought, the lower the standards, the better I'm doing.
Only in drinking games.
I'm just kidding. No, the listeners know this, but I'm actually having a book written right now. So
We didn't talk about the name of the book last time.
no, we didn't, did we?
No. So you can tell him about the name of the book, and that's
Okay,
his
so I'm having a book written about me, and I'm going over titles in my head, and the first one that popped in my head was Second of Five, a quadruple amputee story, because there was only 5 of us to survive in Afghanistan, or Iraq and Afghanistan.
Out of your platoon.
No, out of amputee wise, there's only 5 quadruple amputees that survived the war in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Wow.
Yeah,
He was also thinking about
I was-
2 of 5.
2 of 5. So either Second of 5 or 2 of 5.
2 of 5 makes it sound like what was the
Right,
Star
like
Trek 7 of 9? or
Right, like
whatever
I
it
would
was?
be like 2 of something, but I'm not.
Wait a minute, are you
I'm
gonna
not
wear
2.
a hot spandex suit?
Right. No, I think Second to 5 is the way to go.
I think 2nd of 5 sounds.
I like it, but I did ask somebody else, and they said 2 of 5.
Man, see, so there's so many different opinions.
But I do like, me personally, I like 2nd of 5 because, I don't know, 2 of 5 and 2nd of 5.
But
Second
you were the
sounds-
second, right?
I was
Yes.
the
So
second.
that's more descriptive because
Right.
2 of 5, that just means, that almost makes it sound like there's 2 of you. Like
That's what I would
there's
say.
2 of
Yeah.
you. It's bad English.
Yeah.
Right? Or bad grammar. And I not that I'm a grammar gaunt.
No, I think you're a grammar Nazi. And I'm going to say Nazi. I don't care Germans.
wonk.
Care what you want.
Are you kidding? When we in Officer Basic, we actually had an English section where we had to write papers and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, you still got to do that nowadays?
Well, this was back in '86, so
Oh, yeah.
now they
then.
probably don't.
But probably was, but we just don't know about it.
Yeah, I don't know if they do. They even teach them how to write now.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite theory or conspiracy theory? As we call it?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because you're very enlightened.
Exactly. So, what would be your most unique one or most interesting one that sticks out in your brain?
That's crazy because there is so much crap, right?
Breaking news alert.
It's a breaking news alert.
That was
Perfect timing. Yeah, that was
that was right on time, man.
That was NSA right there, man. You know, just popping
And in
in,
case it doesn't
checking
show
on
up on audio,
Send it now.
in case it doesn't show up on audio, his Auntie Di's phone went off and said "breaking news alert" right when we were talking about that. So crazy.
Like, yeah, I'm waiting to hear from her phone. Send it.
Yeah, sending.
Does it have to be still a conspiracy?
No, it doesn't have to be.
Because we already kind of touched on some of that, right? Like World War One, they pulled us in with a false flag, right? World War II, right? They let Hawaii get hit,
Yeah.
right? Vietnam, the signals intelligence boat that was so many of these. Here, how about we all know that
They don't have to be war related either.
we all know that we whacked JFK, right?
That is theory.
I don't know.
Yeah. I would say I think
None of us were there.
None of us were
Okay.
there. I do believe that the CIA did. Probably.
I believe someone did. Yeah,
I
believe in those. I wasn't.
I said we, right? I didn't specify any agencies, so I'm not getting any blowback here. Unlike somebody that's over here going,
Yeah, someone's getting us all in trouble.
Yeah. No, I don't think it was
any three-letter agency.
Three-letter agency.
No, it was the FUK.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it was. It was
FKRY.
yeah.
Yeah, the FKRY.
But I mean, it's like nowadays we talk about the permanent government. The government's the largest employer. The federal government is the largest employer on the planet. Without the military, does that scare you guys?
That does actually.
No, what scares me is that the Federal Reserve is actually the people that are running this country.
Well, the Federal Reserve is.
They're not even owned by the government.
I
They
know.
can do whatever they
Right.
want.
It's just a collection of 12 private banks, right?
The Rockefellers and the
all those different dudes.
Wentworths and
Wentworths.
I don't know.
Is that like
J.B.
Woolworths?
Wentworth? I think that's
Is that
a lawyer.
Woolworths?
I don't know.
JG Wentworth. That's all I know.
Yeah, J.G.
Wentworth.
Wentworth. Colleague, no.
8776. I don't know.
What? What are you guys on about?
There's a
Commercial. You watch TV?
Dude, I don't have. Well, actually, I do have commercials on
877
some
cash now.
Cash now.
Yep. JG Wentworth.
Call 877 cash now.
Who's the heating guy? Cherry Kelly. CherryKelly.com. That's a radio commercial, though.
Yep.
Gosh, man. It's like nothing would really surprise me.
Not war-related conspiracies. What,
Do you think we actually went to the moon?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you?
You do?
And the planet is round.
Yeah.
No, it's flat.
I just saw YouTube. Some dude that was a flat earther, somebody hauled his ass down to Antarctica so that he could see that the sun was up for 24 hours, and you can't explain that with a flat earth.
Well,
So he's
here's
like,
the thing.
okay, I was wrong.
Here's what I try to explain to people is when you're aiming as a sniper or aiming any type of gun,
Right.
you have
We
to
have to-
account for the curvature of the earth.
And the rotation, if it's a
Yes.
long shot, right?
Exactly.
If it's over.
So if it was flat, you wouldn't have to do that.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for all you
if it was-
flatlanders out there,
hang on. If it was flat and it was traversing through space flat, right, on one of its longitudinal
bullet wouldn't even
axes,
make it.
Well, no, your bullet would go to the side, but it wouldn't curve. It would be a linear trajectory, right?
I don't know. I'm confused on that one. If it's
It depends
flat,
on what way you're. If you're shooting like this way, and the Earth is moving that flat Earth is moving that way, it would move.
It would curve.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's curved.
It would look.
so it would depend on which way you're shooting. What if you're shooting with flat Earth moving the way it's supposed to? Actually,
Well, then it'd probably go farther.
it would
wait a
go
minute.
straight, and you wouldn't have to do the
exactly.
curve.
Exactly.
Every
It would be a
time
straight line.
You take a shot, whether it's north, east, or west. If it's over a mile, you have to account for the curvature of the Earth.
Yep.
So therefore, in theory, it can't be flat.
I'm assuming that artillery has to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, here's my favorite thing. Hey, if you get in a commercial airline,
Yep.
right, they don't fly straight lines,
No.
No.
right? They fly a curve. The shortest distance between 2 points on a sphere is a curve. Mm-hmm. So flat earthers can't explain that because I guess none of them will get in an airplane.
But what I can't explain is why we can't fly over Antarctica.
Well, that's a different story.
Oh no! Please tell
Yes,
us.
please tell
please
us.
tell
I
us.
think
Yeah.
the aliens will shoot you down.
Hey, I did hear something.
No,
about-
I don't know if there's aliens, but here's the thing: when you look at some of the geological evidence, because the poles change, right? The poles,
Right, they're supposed to happen every billions of years.
Yeah.
That's probably what's happening now.
Well,
and they call it
it's
global
already
warming.
moving.
Yeah, it's moving like
It's moving.
35 kilometers a
The
year.
magnetic poles have been moving,
Yes,
and they're
they should
accelerating,
be,
right?
and that's going to make the
I heard-
Midwest a tropical zone soon.
Well, it depends on how nobody was ever there to witness it the last time that happened, which was like, I don't know, 77,000 years ago or something
It's
like that.
supposed to be like millions of.
No, I don't
I
think it's that. I think it's quicker than that.
I actually read an article yesterday about that. It's decelerating now. It was accelerating.
Now it's decelerating?
And now it's decelerating.
Yeah.
But it's closer to Siberia now.
It's still crazy.
Yeah.
Because
That's
there
what
was
I
a
think is
there was a
global warming.
tree there was a tree that they dug up somewhere that was preserved really well. I want to say it was like New Zealand or some stupid place like that. Nothing wrong with kiwis. But
He's anti-Kiwi.
I know.
I'm
he's
not
a
anti-Kiwi.
stupid place, you know?
Well, all right. That was I
Wow,
that was
man.
unfair to the Kiwis.
Kiwi
right?
peoples are fucking awesome.
Anyway, there
I
was
like
this
Kiwis.
big ass tree that they found. They dug
Okay,
it
fair
up,
enough.
and it had been around during the last polar shift. And so they got some really interesting data that I don't think they really know what it means. All they know is that the shit's real, and it's
Yeah,
going
pretty
to
soon
do
South's going to be north.
it's going to do a
north's
lot
gonna
of
be
damage,
south.
right? Until it gets flipped.
So what you're saying is go south?
Then it'll be north. We
Yeah.
might
Well,
float
I
off
didn't
the
say
earth.
that's
Yeah.
just get closer to the equator.
I think we're in okay shape,
Okay.
right?
Till they make that seismic earthquake happen along the
Yeah.
fault line in Missouri.
The
Hey.
New Madrid, yeah.
I remember when that sound went off and that small earthquake. That was the first time I ever had a real earthquake in my life.
Dude, when I was a teenager
When was
in
that?
St. Louis,
A couple years ago.
New Madrid kicked off a big enough one that it shook me out of bed.
Okay, yeah, that's bigger than the one I
Right?
felt.
That was, I think, in the late 70s.
Never felt an earthquake
it was
or
only
seen a
slight.
tornado. Never
I've
seen
never
You never seen a tornado?
No.
I've never either in my
I've
life.
seen
I
tornadoes.
really want to, but I don't want to be close enough.
Yeah, I understand that.
But I tell you, so that was the other freaky thing. When I was in the Guard, so there was this crazy guy, I can't remember his name, like Dr. Brown or something like that, and he predicted a date for the New Madrid to go off with 7+ on the Richter scale. And what geologically, so even though the New Madrid is down in the boot heel, there's a strata of very hard rock that goes all the way up the river to St. Louis. So St. Louis, like, have you ever taken a steel pipe and hit one end hard and been holding on to the other end? Didn't feel good, right?
Yeah.
So that's St. Louis holding on to the other end of the pipe.
Oh.
And it's sitting on top of caves, a lot of limestone.
Yes.
And
Oh
so-
yeah, sinkholes.
Yeah,
everywhere.
St. Louis is, when that sucker goes off, and it's only a matter of time, right?
Yeah.
Because it went off in the 1800s pretty big, which caused the Mississippi River to go backwards,
Yep.
moved the boundary. That's what created Reelfoot Lakes.
Catawissa is actually sometimes in Illinois and sometimes in Missouri. Like the river, the way the river shifts shape sometimes. The
Yeah,
Illinois
yeah.
boundary.
Really?
That town is sometimes in Illinois, sometimes in Missouri.
That's crazy.
Hey, that is
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Or Kaskaskia, not Catawissa.
Okay.
Kaskaskia.
Catawissa sounds like
No, Catawissa's
a cat's whistling on something.
No, that's where my grandpa lived. That's out by Burns Mill. But yeah, no, Kaskaskia,
Kaskaskia.
Illinois now.
When was it last in Missouri?
I don't know.
I wonder if they have to change like their rules.
I don't know.
That would be interesting to
Hey,
study.
so I got a crazy one for you guys.
Okay.
Are you prepared for having no technology whatsoever and no electricity for 100 years?
I hope that happens.
Me too.
Well, I kind of don't because of my hand runs.
Well, yeah, your hand won't work so good.
I'll get solar panels.
I'll put you on my back. We'll Yoda you.
Yeah.
Oh, will you be doing little flip?
No, I won't be
jumping
doing
up
flips.
in the
Tucks and
air.
rolls.
Yeah.
Tucks and rolls.
Yeah, that'd be
I'm,
cool.
I'm an old man.
Because so, like, so many people don't know, and I'm cheating here. I'm using your podcast. The Carrington event, again, another cool thing that happened in the late 1800s, was a large solar storm that impacted the planet for over 24 hours. And back then, the only copper lines we had in the air were telegraph lines. They were all vaporized, caused a lot of small fires, but didn't really otherwise hurt mankind because we weren't dependent upon things that carried electricity. And it's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. So when this thing happens again and we're entering into a period of increased solar activity after a long lull, which they're we've been counting solar activity since the 1700s. And with solar spots. The only reason I know this shit, why? Because in the Signal Corps, because of communications, we care about sunspots, right? Yeah. Solar activity is a big deal. It blocks different frequencies depending on the level of transmissions. And so, yeah, I'm weird. I track space weather too.
That's interesting, though. I mean, we could do a whole nother episode on this, but I feel like we need to kind of cut it and maybe do a part 2.
Okay. So anyway, think about this. Let your listeners think about this. It took over 100 years to put our electric grid together.
Yep.
How long do you think it'll take when it's gone and we don't have any horse-drawn anything to do it? We don't have any... Yeah, we'll have some diesel fuel and gasoline for a little while if you can get it out of the ground with hand pumps. Because the cars will probably be okay because they have enough shielding. But how are you going to rebuild the grid?
You don't.
Not easily.
Yeah, my only hope is that if it's a short event, it takes out China. Then
they're the ones that get hit by the solar bitch, not us.
Well, it most likely it'd be big enough that it'd be a whole rotation. If it's a short one, that wouldn't be a bad thing, right? Neutralize our threats.
I mean, it would probably kill millions
think it was us.
people.
Oh, millions, billions.
Well, hey, man, I want to be conservative.
And actually, the event won't kill them.
It's the way
they will kill themselves. They will kill themselves.
They would starve to death.
No, they won't starve to death.
You don't think so?
No, they're going to kill each other. They're going to eat each other. They're zombies at that point.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I got news for you.
Apocalypse starts.
I got news for you. Yeah, the zombies are runners, and it's not rabies. It's just people that are going to kill you and eat you.
Yep.
Yeah, they do that in The Walking Dead, where they come up on that camp and the people are actually cannibals.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
You know, I've never watched The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I started watching the first episode, and that little girl was a runner, and I'm like, screw that, I'm out.
It was only good for 3 seasons anyway, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the old zombies, right? They couldn't catch me.
Yep.
Man.
Yeah, I'm good with them.
The mental retards, as Brian calls it.
Well, hey, they're dead.
Air
How
quotes.
smart can they be?
Air quotes.
Yep. All right, though, we do need to start wrapping this one up.
We're going to wrap this one up. There could be possibly a part 2, depending on how we feel in the morning.
3 or 4.
Or if Brian can make it down to where we're at.
Yeah. Do you want to go through the list of people that you support these days?
Yeah, that'd be real quick. It'll be the Joshua Chamberlain Society, which you can find them, I think, at chamberlainsociety.org, and Simplify America's Fund, and Focus Marines Foundation, along with Tunnel to Towers. And those are the 4 charities that I follow stay with, because I know that they're good people, and almost over 85% of the money, if not more, goes back to the veterans. So if you're looking for a foundation to donate to, those are the 4 I recommend. And we will see you on the next one.